Hello Rajat. Hello Vinila.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
How are you guys doing?
Good, good. How about you?
Good.
I'm good. We are really excited to have you guys on stage and for the conference today. Before you guys, we had Nilesh as the first speaker for the afternoon session. So now we have both of you. So going further, can you both give a quick introduction about yourself, like what you guys are doing and what your session is going to be today?
Yeah, all right. So I'm Rajat. I'm working with Huawei. I work for the Soda Foundation. So in Soda Foundation, we are trying to solve day-to-day data challenges, and this is what we are going to present and talk to you about.
Awesome. So yeah, Vinila, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, I'm Vanilla. I'm from Huawei. I'm working in Soda Foundation. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Rajat, I see your presentation, so I'll put it on the screen and you both can go.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So, it's live.
Okay, let's start. Yeah. So hello everyone. It's exciting to be here and share uh, the story of data and data management with you all today. So ever since the beginning of humanity, we have been generating data in various uh, sizes, forms, um, varieties, and velocity of data. And earlier we started with writing on the caves, so that was also one form of data. To bookkeeping and accounting and ledgers, and now we have data in ones and zeros. That is the bits that we have. So we have come a long way uh, in the way we generate data, and so has the data management platforms also evolved over time. So today, let's see how the challenges of data management have been solved by some of the emerging platforms like Soda. I'm Rajat, and I'll be taking you through the journey of data ever since the beginning of humanity. All right, so let's see what exactly Soda is. So Soda basically is a emerging platform for data management. So Soda was a recent introduction in the Linux Foundation in the early 2019, and it aims to establish open and unified and autonomous data management framework for data mobility from the edge to the core to the cloud. So SODA in itself stands for Soda Open Data Autonomy, which is a kind of a recursive acronym. It's open source and unified data autonomous data framework for data mobility from edge to core to cloud. And then the Soda Foundation offers a neutral form of cross-platform collaborations and integrations, and provides end users a quality end-to-end solutions. The SOTA brings together industry leaders to collaborate on building a common framework to promote data standardization and best practices for data storage, protection, governance, analytics, and so on, to support emerging from IoT, big data, machine learning, and other applications. So, SODA is an emerging platform, and it has uh, multiple moving parts. And let me try to simplify uh, the SODA architecture for you. So, as I said, it's a framework. So, looking at the picture on the right side, you can see the simplified overview of the SODA framework architecture. So we start all the way from the bottom, wherein we have various heterogeneous storage providers who have their own storage entities, ranging from arrays to tape drives to SCSI disks and so on. So all these storage entities form the storage backend, uh, all of which are heterogeneous and have different capabilities. So the challenge of managing and bringing all of them to the common platform is immense. That was the thought behind coming up with this SODA framework. So there are various pieces to solving this data puzzle that we have. So once the storage backends are provided, uh, they they dock onto the SODA platform via the dock service, which we see at the bottom. So the dock service is basically nothing but we have vendor drivers for each of the vendors, which pulls in the data from the various storage backends and brings them onto the SODA platform. And once we have the various data for the disparate vendors that we are able to manage the data that emerges from these storage backends via the components like the controller, API, and NBP plugins, which we will see in a short while what they are. So once the data is available within the purview of SODA, we are in a better position to manage these data and present them to any user on the via the dashboard that we have for SODA. So the core pieces of the framework are the controller. Once the data is within the SODA's purview, uh, controller plays a critical role for all the API flow management. Suppose any operation that has to be done on the data that we have collected from the API or the dashboard, all the calls go through the controller. Um, then there is the standardized API layer, which basically does the job of standardizing all the calls to various storage providers. Uh, so that all we need to do is call one API for any of the providers that we are trying to manage. Uh, Then we have the various plugins, the northbound plugins, which we call. They are focused to extend all the industry platforms and application solutions to interface with SODA API or be compliant with them. Then multi-cloud also is a very core piece of the SODA platform, which we'll see in more detail as we go through the session. So multi-cloud, in summary, it basically tries to provide cloud vendor agnostic data management for hybrid cloud, cross cloud, or inter-cloud. It can be hosted on-prem or on cloud native as well. Then there are the sidekicks like the telemetry, orchestration, and SODA intelligence. So as they provide the telemetry provides basically all the statistics and health data from the infrastructure, and this gives a better hold of the infrastructure that users are trying to manage. And then we have the orchestration. Orchestration framework basically provides flexibility to user to use existing workflows or define customized workflows to get the simplified execution of tasks. Then, as we talk, intelligence is one piece which is coming up rapidly. So once we have all the data collected from the various backends, we provide intelligence on top of them using some of the ML algorithms. Okay, so these are the various moving parts within the SODA framework, which provide all the capabilities that SODA has to offer to the users. So let's focus on the multi-cloud, keeping in mind the theme that we have for today's talks. So multi-cloud, exactly what exactly is the multi-cloud? So multi-cloud, when we speak about multi-cloud, it's basically basically it makes use of two or more cloud computing services from any number of different cloud vendors that we have. So multi-cloud functions can span across all private, all public, or it can be a combination of both. So why exactly multi-cloud? Why even given that cloud in itself is a pretty complex solution to consume, what was the need for multi-cloud? Okay, so there are quite a few needs when we think about multi-cloud. So given that we have multi-cloud was kind of born out of competition. So from the business point of view, when we have multiple products, we always want to take the best advantage of by the price arbitrage between those two products. So price arbitrage happens to be one of the reasons for using multi-cloud. So given a particular feature, for example, storage itself, so there can be pretty decent amount of price arbitrage between various providers like AWS or Azure or Huawei or so on. So we want, as a users, we want to make the best of the price arbitrage, and so multi-cloud. Uh, the reason for multi-cloud. Then there are various services. For example, there may be specialized services which may be being offered by some of the vendors, which the other vendors may not have been uh, caught up to. So we want to be the first users of some of the specialized services which have recently been launched. So, uh, but given that our data is on cloud A and the services are on cloud B, so how do we make use of the latest services which have come on cloud B? So again, multi-cloud is the answer. Now that we are storing all the data, suppose on cloud A, and but we, for some reason, the policies have changed or some of the pricing have changed. So we want to avoid that kind of a situation where the user is always being governed by the vendor. So we want to avoid that vendor lock-in kind of a situation. So again, multi-cloud is the answer. Clouds, for example, they may be having an off day. So we have seen that in the recent past, some of the clouds were down for a few of ranging from few minutes to hours to days. Cloud is essentially a service which needs to be running up 24 by 7, 365 days a year. So we do not want to have a be caught off guard wherein clouds are having an off day and we are not able to access our data or the services which are hosted on the cloud. To overcome this situation, again, multi-cloud is the solution. Then going forward, backup and disaster avoidance, which is again a spin-off from clouds having an off day. Again, then there can be various business scenarios wherein acquisitions have happened. Cloud A has acquired Cloud B, and there can be a merger or there can be shutdowns in some of the cases. So we don't want to be left off guard, and we want to have our data to ourselves. And so for that reason, we need to have a solution which is beyond a single cloud. Then there are various policies like government policies like GDPR and so on, which force us to have data presence within the region that we are operating in. Then, of course, the customer is the king. So the choice of the customer always matters. So the customer may choose cloud A plus cloud B, or maybe cloud A plus cloud C. So again, multi-cloud is prevalent there as well. And there are finally some typical use cases which require us to have data presence on more than one cloud, just for the reason that cloud one of the clouds may go down anytime. Example being some typical applications like pager duty or some alerts which we don't want to miss. And then the other reasons which I spoke about, like the GDPR policies. So that also requires us to store the data in the region that we are operating in. So these are some of the reasons which came to top of my head to talk about. So these are the compelling reasons which forces us to look at the multi-cloud aspects of storing data as well. So how do we do it? So simple answer is use Soda. Okay, so now again let's look at the architecture from the perspective of multi-cloud. So we built this framework, but how exactly multi-cloud fits into it? So multi-cloud basically provides a vendor-agnostic data management for hybrid inter or intra-cloud. The features that we have so far basically support S3 and S3 like compatible backend managers, which enable to connect to any of the cloud vendors. So far we have been able to support cloud backends like Azure, GCP, AWS, Huawei, IBM, and so on. Some of the important features which we have so far in the multi-cloud are policy-based data mobility across public and private clouds. And it provides object, file, and block services from the cloud vendors which we support. So let's see how. Yeah, so this we already talked about. All right. Yeah, so this is a simplistic architecture of the multi-cloud that we have implemented in SODA framework so far. At the bottom, we have the various cloud providers. And so once we want to use a particular cloud, we should be able to register that particular cloud with the SODA framework, which happens via the backend adapters. So once the backend is registered with SODA framework, we are able to perform any operation on those backends from the APIs and UI of multi-cloud, from SODA. Some of the important features which are there in the service layer are the S3 service, basically the object service, the file, block, backend, data flow service, data mover service, and so on. So these services enable us to manage data within a cloud, inter-cloud, and intra-cloud as well. So these features are all exposed through the API layer to the SODA dashboard or any other REST clients that we have. And identity management is provided through Keystone, which is a well-known identity management component from OpenStack. And so next, yeah, so these are the features which we discussed about, and we'll be seeing a short demo on data migration, which will kind of cover all the data capabilities, data movement capabilities of SODA, and that will be interesting watch from Vanilla, who will be presenting that. So going a little bit more detail about each of the services that we have on multi-cloud. So basically, everything starts with a backend manager. So backend manager is a kind of a registry for each of the cloud vendors within the to SODA. So whenever we want to perform any operation on any of the clouds we support, we need to first register that cloud with SODA. So backend manager is the component which does that. So it supports create, update, delete for any particular backend which we want to operate on. So it also serves as the metadata placeholder for any of the cloud backend profiles that we are trying to support. Yeah, similarly, the S3 service. So S3 service again, it works in conjunction with the backend adapter. So S3 controller basically serves as a bucket and object metadata placeholder. So a bucket in SODA multi-cloud is a virtual bucket. It's so we have the physical buckets in each of the clouds, but SODA multi-cloud provides a virtual bucket that maps to the physical bucket in the object store on premise or in the cloud. So whenever any operations related to the bucket, like create bucket or post an object on a bucket, those kind of operations are performed. So we get the location of the bucket through the location mapper, and then perform the operation using that location. So in the demo, we'll see how all of this is done. Similarly, any file operations which need to be performed uh, is done via the file service controller. Again, it gets the backend service, and any search operations are provided by the backend service, and then any physical operations to be done on the file service is done on after we get the file location, and then these are kind of a template kind of operations which are done across the object, the file, block, and object storage. And similarly, we have the block service. Here, the cloud volumes and the block devices management support is provided. The block service controller serves as the metadata placeholder for cloud volume resources. So we are able to search the backend service where we get the backend, and we perform the block operations on those backends. And the data flow service. So data flow basically comprises of two parts. One is the data migration and replication. So right now we'll focus on the data migration for the demo and description. So the data flow manager is comprised of basically the policy manager, connector manager, plan manager, and the job manager. So whenever you want to do a data migration from Soda, we can define policies on what kind of policy we want to run on a particular data migration. Whether we want to schedule it for like a daily basis or a weekly basis or monthly and so on. And also we have the plan manager, wherein we want to say that the plan is to be run automated at a particular point at a particular time of a day, week, month, or so on. So that's when the data migration is kicked off, and job manager handles the migration job while it is executing. Connector manager is a vital component here, which basically establishes the connection between the clouds for data migration between the clouds and so on. So then we have the migration job execution to data mover through Apache Kafka. It's a distributed streaming platform, as you know. And data mover has different plugins to handle different migration tasks. So these plugins are developed as and when we are supporting various clouds. Uh, so let's see how this data migration works. So the first step to data migration is we create objects. We create, first of all, the bucket needs to be created. And then we place upload the objects into that bucket. Then we want to migrate the bucket, migrate the objects from cloud A, which is AWS in this case, to cloud B, which is Azure. And then, yeah, so we can migrate the data across the clouds. So some of the supported storages are AWS S3, Azure Blob, Huawei, Alibaba OSS, Chef, IBM, GCP, and VP. So user can migrate data immediately, or they can schedule it for a later point in time. We will see in the demo how. Then user have an option to delete the objects once the data has been migrated successfully from the source to destination. So here we can see that we have given the delete from source to true. So once the data migration is done, the data from the source, which is bucket AWS, is deleted, and if it is false, data is present on both of the source and destination after the migration. Okay, so next up we have a short demo from Vanilla, and she'll talk you through the various steps which we perform on Soda dashboard for migration. So Vanilla, over to you.
Hi everybody. To process the data migration, we need to first register a storage backend. To do that, we give a name of the backend. We select the type of the backend, AWS S3. We'll give credentials like region, endpoint, bucket name, access key, secret key. That way we can register. I have already registered. This is AWS backend. We have also Azure backends registered. Now we will create buckets in the registered backends. To create buckets, click on the create. Give the name of the bucket. Type of the bucket, AWS S3. Backend is to be selected. We can enable encryption. Okay. Bucket is created successfully. We will create Azure bucket now. Type is selected as Azure storage. Select OK. It is successfully created. Now we will upload files. Upload. Select any random file. OK. The file is uploading. Successful. Now we will upload another file. Select file. OK. It's uploading. Successful. We'll go to the Azure. We'll go to the console, AWS console. The files uploaded can be seen here. Double click. We'll go to Azure bucket. No records are found here. Now we do the migration. Go to data flow. We'll create a migration plan. Create. Give the plan name. Source bucket is AWS. Demo AWS. Destination bucket is Azure. We can do immediately. We'll delete the object after it is migrated. Okay. Now we'll see what's happening. Process is going on. Success. Our migration is done. Let's check. Go to buckets. Azure bucket. The files are uploaded here. AWS bucket. They are deleted after migration. If we refresh, the files are deleted in the AWS. We'll check in Azure. Demo Azure. The files are. Our migration is successful. The time can also be seen here. Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, so that was a really quick and good demo from Vanilla regarding
Thank you.
the data migration between two clouds. So, but right now what we demoed was migration of small amount of data from AWS to Azure. So always it's not so simple. Data migration has its own challenges. For example, when we are trying to migrate a huge amount of data, say 1 TB of data between AWS to Azure, so it has its own challenges. There are session timeouts, there are network outages, and various challenges. So Soda as a platform is trying to uh, address those challenges, and let's see how we can do that. So we have been into production only a couple of releases now. Soda is still in the infancy. So, but then it will soon mature to solve such big and important challenges regarding data. Okay, so with that we come to the various object lifecycle features which Soda provides. So object sorry, the data that we have is not always useful, and sometimes we tend to discard the old data which is not in use. So Soda provides automated capabilities for moving the data across tiers. If the data is frequently used, we keep it in tier 1. So tier 1 basically maps to standard for AWS, hot for Azure, and again standard for Huawei. But if the data is not so frequently used, then we move it to a uh, cheaper kind of a storage, which is basically tier 99. So tier 99 maps to standard AI for AWS, cool for Azure, and warm for Huawei. So as we can see, the naming convention between clouds is different. So to give a common name for the various storage tiers, we have come up with a terminology of our own. And finally, we have the tier 999, where the data is in no more use, but we need to preserve the data for due to certain policy compliances. So which AWS does well by Glacier, and Azure by Archives, and Huawei by cold storages. So we can provision, we can have these kind of policies on data, wherein once the data goes out of use for say a certain amount of time, maybe say 30 days, we move it to from tier 1 to tier 99. And say if it is no more in use for next 60 days, we move it from 99 to 999. So that is what we have tried to depict here in the slide. So once the data is out of use for say 90 days, then we purge the data. So this kind of policies are applicable within cloud and intra cloud as well. For example, suppose Azure provides a cheaper storage of data beyond 30 days. So we move that once the data is no more in use in AWS, we move the data from AWS to Azure for tier 9999, and thereafter, if it is no more in use for next 60 days, then we go ahead and purge it. So
So,
these
sorry
all
to interrupt you, Rajat. We are actually just a bit out of time. So, you can.
yeah. So I'm done. This is the last slide.
Sure.
So as we seen, this is the kind of data story which we have built for managing disparate data across distributed environments. So hope you liked it and learned something new here. And with that, I come to the end of the session. So I urge you guys to explore Soda and come and join us and help solve data problems in much better way. Uh, Thank you. Thanks a lot.